Hello everyone, today I'm going to be explaining about historical gender norms. Let's begin. So today's topic, we're going to be explaining about gender norms throughout history. Now, here's a question that I have. How have gender norms changed? Before I begin, I would like to give a brief definition of what exactly gender norms are. Gender norms are the social principles that govern the behavior of girls, boys, women, and men in society, and restrict their gender identity into what's considered to be appropriate. Gender norms are neither static nor universal and change over time. Some norms are positive, for example, the norms that children shouldn't smoke. Other norms lead to inequality. And thank you for joining. Have a good day.
Hello, I'm Jennifer, and most of my information is comes from one of my articles, Gender Equality Law Center. So, gender stereotypes are hazardous because they can produce confusion in our perceptions. When someone does not adhere to our gender norms, it can lead to discrimination and uneven treatment, or it can cause an unequal or an unjust treatment. In most fundamental sense, sexism arises when gender disparity occurs in the context of gender stereotyping. It was said that 63% of transgender, and gender nonconforming people have experienced serious acts of discrimination, which have a significant impact on their quality of life.
Everyone, for this Psychology Day, we will be discussing about gender norms. We pick cultural influence of gender norms, how some culture see the difference or how some culture favor one gender to another in certain cases or instances. What we have is an article with the title Judgment of Marital Rape as a Function of Honor Culture, Masculine Reputation Threat, and Observer's Gender. A cross-cultural comparison between Turkey, Germany, and UK. This article said that if there's any act that can damage men's reputation and bring shame upon him, his family, and even the community, like infidelity of his or her partner, any act that the husband will do on his wife, whether it's physical aggression or sexual aggression, based on honor culture, they will excuse the act and instead they will put the blame on the wife. So that's how the honor culture works. There is also evidence that perpetrators are attributed less and victims are attributed more blame when the rape occurs between spouses than when the victim and the perpetrator are strangers or acquaintances. Furthermore, investigating the effect of culture of honor on blame attributions in the context of marital rape, it seems that it is important, given that the culture of honor leads to a tolerant judgment of men's aggression against women, especially in intimate relationship, when the perpetrator experiences a threat to his reputation. So, because of that, they look that men generally endorse gender-based honor values more strongly than women. And this gender differences seems especially pronounced in honor cultures. With this, victim blaming and tolerant judgment of perpetrators are viewed as extension of traditional gender roles in which men are expected to be dominant, powerful, and sexually assertive, whereas women are expected to be submissive and passive. The primary aim of this present study was to investigate blame attribution as a function of a culture of honor, the degree of perceived threat to male perpetrators' masculine reputation, and the gender of the observer in the context of marital rape. So that's my part. The second part will be discussed by Alexis, which is the result in the discussion of this article. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my presentation for Psychology Day 2021. I'm Alexis Lau, and I'm going to continue discussing the article that Jose Rodan started, specifically the article Judgments of Marital Rape as a Function of Honor Culture, Masculine Reputation Threat, and Observer Gender, a cross-cultural comparison between Turkey, Germany, and the UK. Okay, so from this study, the researchers found that of the 398 participants, the German and British cultures do not consist of strong honor traditions, as does the Turkish culture. Cultures of honor, those in which actors compete for status based on physical force, are far from uniform. Honor is a central source of status, which largely explains the apparently trivial causes of many violent conflicts. Honor cultures are typically antipathetic to law and legal officials. Traditional honor cultures tend also to be highly patriarchal, subordinating women and treating their sexuality as family property. In such cultures, a second type of honor violence may be found, men beating or even killing their female relatives for loss of chastity or other conduct that threatens male rule. The Turkish participants in this study attributed the most fault towards those who were raped, while the rapist went without shame or punishment for his actions done, compared to the German and British participants. In each cultural group, though, men blamed the victims over the perpetrators more so than did women. The primary determining factor for Turkish rape perception and blame attributions was honor norms, which are highly emphasized in Turkish culture. On the other hand, the primary determining factor in German and British cultures, which emphasize more on dignity, was rape myth acceptance. The outcomes of this cross-cultural study shine light on how much influence a culture has on its individual's view on the rightness or wrongness of marital rape in such ways that the victim's well-being is compromised. Thank you again for joining me. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Gomez. I will be talking about the same-sex marriage law. I know it's Psychology Day, and what a better way to talk about our current issues that comes with people of the same sex choosing to get married. Same-sex marriage law has been established vital controversies from the social legal stance. Over the last decades, same-sex marriage has been deemed as a rising global issue since different voices have been heard that demand legislation protecting the rights of lesbian, homosexual, and transgenders. The debate behind the sensitive, however, and important issue is due to the fact that in 1945, Constitution states that the United States is ruled by law, regardless of the dominating Islamic religion. This paper provides my stance on the difference between the federal and state difference in same-sex marriages law in the global authorized context. However, same-sex marriages aligns with the principle on human rights. It contradicts the culture of other countries and teaching of Islam. Arguably, I stand to support same-sex marriage laws because all civil rights are advocating to support marriage without distinctions. I support this assertion with the fact that the first two recent decades of the 21st century established that the law of the same-sex marriage gained support from significant figures during the civil rights campaigns, such as John Lewis, Julius Bond, and Mildred Loving. In addition, the global public supports the same-sex marriage laws significantly rose above the average for the first time. The same-sex marriage policies are good since leading African American civil rights body affirmed its support for the policy, stating that it is a civil right. A further implication that supports the positive impact of same-sex marriages is when the Supreme Court of the United States destroyed DOMA, organization for breaching the fifth law of the United States in the civil rights case, resulting in self-appreciation of the same-sex marriages with the benefits of the states for tied couples associated in the residential states or the states which the union was formalized. Besides, my stance on the same-sex issue is further backed up by the fact that the majority of the prominent supporters of this policy are civil and human rights organizations and scientific therapeutic communities, while opponents are just but religious groups. For instance, the U.S. Supreme Court decision on Obergefell happened following years of regularly increasing nationwide public support for the same-sex marriage policy in the United States. The support for the same-sex issue continues to advance afterwards. Additionally, my stance on this issue is backed up by 1999 and 2015 research on national data, which indicates that the protection of same-sex policies is associated with a substantial decline in the degree and avoid suicide cases. Young children have an impact being focused on the children with marginal sexual alignment, leading to nearly 123,000 lesser children trying to commit suicide every year in the United States. In addition, most of the states in the District of Columbia has licensed same-sex marriage policies. The Attorney of America Samoa reviewed the opinion of legalizing the issue in 3 of July of 2015, stating that its potential approval will result in positive impact on the entire citizens. In summary, the difference amid the federal state policies on same-sex marriages bring out about different standpoints. This come up due to religion views, social views, and stereotypes, all contributing to different views on lesbians and gays. However, the public picture on homosexuality has been overcome by the repulsion and confusion. I stand to support same-sex laws because I support civil rights. Thank you very much. I look forward to any questions anyone may have, and happy Psychology Day.
Hello everyone, welcome to Psychology Day. Today I will be talking about gender bias in research and the deadly effects. So, first I would like to talk about an article on gender bias in research. How does it affect evidence-based medicine? Research funding for coronary artery disease in men is far greater than for women, yet the at-risk population of women, which is an older age group, suffers more morbidity and mortality. So this research article, alongside with many more research articles, actually support the fact that research funding is limited on the gender for sex differences in research and within medicine. This stems from a long history of research being limited to specifically the male form as well as the male physiology, and so this research article kind of goes more deeper into those specific histories as well as current events associated to the limitations of research within gender and gender bias. The lack of funding for women's disease, in effect, maintains women's lower socioeconomic status. With less disease prevention comes less opportunity for socioeconomic progression. And this article, by stating that, suggests that by limiting the funding associated to research within females, we are continuing to perpetuate the lower socioeconomic status for females, which is a current statistic. And by stating that, they're suggesting that through less disease prevention, through these evidence-based research articles and research associated to medicine, we are perpetuating that stigma and that continued statistic associated to lower socioeconomic status for women. So the next article I wanted to present was injury, vulnerability, and effectiveness of occupant protection technologies for elderly occupants and women. This article is actually a research report done by the United States government and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So what has been found associated to this report is the fatality risk of a female driver or passenger on average is estimated to be 17% higher than for a male of the same age and the same physical form. Now, why is that? Why is a female driver or passenger having a 17% higher fatality rate given safety equipment and the current methods of safety equipment? This report also mentions and states that presumably the effect or resulting effect of higher percentages for females is due to the industry standard for things like safety equipment as well as windows in vehicles. And what I mean by that is there's evidence to suggest, and we go on a little bit further to talk about it, that within industries that produce these equipments, they use a male form model in order to produce all these safety equipment. It's kind of like a universal male form that applies to everyone. And as you could imagine, not everybody is the same physical form. And therefore, this method of unisex male standardization limits the safety of that product for specific people. In this article and the data for this article, they're focused on how it limits the protectability for females. And as mentioned already, the fatality for females to die in a car accident is roughly 17% more than it would be for a male of similar age and physical form. Passenger fatality is also extremely high. For females, it can be roughly 29.2% higher in females than it is for males. So even if you're just driving as a passenger in the vehicle, if you're a female, you have a 29.2% higher probability of dying in the vehicle in a car accident if you get into a car accident as a passenger. And again, this is associated to safety equipment features and the manufacturing process and modeling involved in male forms associated. And when we look at unbelted females as well, unbelted females are more likely to be ejected from the vehicle than unbelted males, presumably because females, being smaller on the average than males, can pass more easily through ejection portals, such as the side window area. Females are up to 27% more likely to die in a car crash wearing a seatbelt compared to males, and up to 72% more likely to experience moderate injury during a car accident in comparison to males. So this statistic, 27% more likely to die in a car crash while wearing safety equipment. That's what the statistic is, that females are just more likely, 27% more likely than males. And again, we circle back to the manufacturing process and the research methodologies associated to creating those safety equipments. And an even more shocking statistic, again reported by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, is that females are up to 72% more likely to experience a moderate injury during a car accident in comparison to males. And that's quite significant. However, these are topics that are not necessarily covered by a lot of people. And that's kind of why I'm bringing them to you today. Something to think about. So how does all this affect you? Well, this is a good example. We've all heard of PPE currently within the pandemic. This is personal protective equipment in women. Again, another report. This report on PPE in women was done by the Trades Union Congress, and they state, surveys show that 57% of women's PPE sometimes or significantly hampers their work. Most PPE is based on the sizes and characteristics of male populations from certain countries in Europe and the United States. The use of a standard U.S. male face shape in the manufacture of RPE means that it does not fit most women as well as a lot of men from minority ethnic groups or with facial hair. Often employers think that all they need to do for women is get some PPE for men, but smaller. However, the unisex approach to PPE can lead to significant problems. Again, as mentioned, 57% of women state that their PPE sometimes or significantly hampers their work. As mentioned in the report, this is most commonly due to the fact that the PPE does not fit, and the PPE does not fit because it is based off of that manufacturer's male model, marketed as universal and unisex based on a male model. And so that male shape kind of sets the standard for everyone. And this is kind of the connection that's been made through multiple articles as to why things within the manufacturing process, from seatbelts all the way to personal protective equipment, do not fit women and even pose a death risk, as mentioned with seatbelts and car crashes. Only 5% of women said that their PPE never hampered their work. Only 5% within the emergency services. So if you're going into healthcare or you are involved in healthcare, and currently with the pandemic, a lot more people are wearing PPE, especially face masks. This report is very interesting to consider. specifically to the fact that the type of PPE used is within that emergency services. And when considered that only 5% of women said that their PPE never hampered their work, that's kind of significant. It's a thought to consider. In fact, ill-fitting, uncomfortable, or inappropriate PPE not only prevents women doing their job, but it can also be a significant health and safety issue. PPE is after all meant to provide protection, so if it is unsuitable, then it is not doing the job properly. So your food for thought involving this presentation is consider unisex manufacturing standard involved in PPE today, such as masks, and the potential effects it can have on women during COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, and I hope you have a great Psychology Day.
Hello, my name is Amber, and I want to talk to you about fighting gender norms, the stereotype, the stigma, and the language. What are gender stereotypes and stigmas? A stereotype is an oversimplified or unfair idea that groups of people have a particular characteristic or that all people in the group are the same. Gender stereotyping is an overgeneralization of the characteristics, differences, and attributes of people based solely on their gender. Stigmas have a large impact on people's everyday lives. Some people think that we should all fit into a mold that was created for us by the gender they announced us to be at birth, and that each gender has a mold for what is considered normal. There are roughly 4 basic types of gender stereotypes. Personality traits. An example of this would be that women are expected to be helpful and emotional, while men are expected to be self-confident and aggressive. Domestic behaviors. An example of this is that women are expected to take care of children, cook, and clean, while men are expected to take care of the money, the cars, and any home repairs. Occupations. An example of this is that people are quick to think that teachers and nurses should be women, while pilots, doctors, and engineers should be men. Physical appearances. An example of this is that women are expected to be thin and graceful, while men are expected to be tall and muscular. Both men and women are expected to be dressed and groomed in ways that fit their biological gender. How can you help fight stereotypes? Just talking about stereotypes is help fighting stereotypes. Sometimes stereotypes are hard for people to see unless they're pointed out. Be an example or a role model for friends, family, and even strangers. Be kind to people regardless of gender and create a safe place within yourself that people feel like it's okay that they can express themselves. When you see somebody making any sexist or negative or mean stereotypes, say something and tell them, hey, that's not okay. The biggest thing you can do to help fight stereotypes is try. What can stereotypes and stigmas do to people? The stereotypes and stigmas that are placed on people can really hurt them, and not just physically, but emotionally. And sometimes emotional damage can be worse than physical damage. When someone believes in a stereotype about certain people, races, or genders, and even people with different sexualities from them, this can cause them to treat people differently. This affects the way people think and the way they act. They may treat a male who is small as weak and useless, or a female that is bold and daring as a troublemaker. So imagine for a second how a trans male and a trans female is treated by people. People who simply don't understand, or people who refuse to understand. These things can really hurt people, and all without really knowing. Stereotypes and mental health. The emotional hurt that people get from stereotypes and the negativity that comes can be detrimental to their health. Not getting help for your mental health can sometimes lead to mental illnesses. Men are 3 times more likely than women to be diagnosed with an antisocial personality. Women make up about 75% of people that are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Stereotypes affect the way people respond to mental health, either their own or others. Lots of people think that men shouldn't show their emotion and that women are too emotional. Stereotypes and stigma can make people too scared to ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. How does language affect gender? Language is the basis of how we construct our societies. And language, or the words that we use, affect our worlds. Words have power and they have control, and they can bring us down just as fast as they can build us up. Most people are not very conscientious of the language that they use. Evidence suggests that how we use gendered words, including pronouns, not only express their beliefs around gender, but also the way they see the world and the places that gender should stand in society. So why are pronouns so important? You hear a lot about them now than you used to. Some pronouns include he, him, she, her, they, them, she, him, he, her, she, they, and he, they. These words, these pronouns, have meaning to people. It's their identity. It's who they are. If you don't know, it's okay to ask. And it's not silly wanting to know if you're not sure. If at first you don't remember to use their correct pronouns and you accidentally mess up, that's okay. Correct yourself and apologize to the person and tell them that you'll try harder to remember to continue to use their pronouns. Remember, on both sides of the spectrum, we're all still learning, but at least you can tell when people are trying to make an effort. Thank you for listening to this presentation. I'd like everybody to remember that we're all just human, trying to make it in a big world. Be nice and respectful to others, and above all, remember, it's okay, and your feelings and your emotions are valid. These are the resources that I used for this presentation today. Thank you.